Hey guys, it's Sarissa with Immerse Photography, and I am so excited that you are here and that you have found this video all about sports photography. Now, I don't know about you, but it's fall here in Ohio and my kids are in sports, which means mama has her camera. And one of the things that I hear over and over and over again in my photography workshops is, how do I take better pictures of my kids when they're playing soccer or football or basketball or volleyball? And I'm gonna be really honest. You have to outthink your camera and know a little bit about what you're doing. In this video, I'm gonna show you some techniques that you can use. I'm gonna talk about common problems. If you're a soccer mom who likes to leave your camera on the automatic setting, what you can do. If you're a little bit more advanced and you're ready to dabble in some of the more manual settings, I'm gonna show you how to handle that situation. And then at the end of the video, we're even gonna talk about what kind of camera equipment might best suit your needs. I'm so excited that you are here. Grab a pen and paper and get ready to take some notes because you are about to be a better sports photographer. Okay, number one, let's talk about the common problems that I see with sports photography and see if they're applying to you and the struggles that you're facing. One of the things that I notice, especially with indoor photography, is that if you have someone who plays basketball or volleyball or does gymnastics, or even if you have someone on the stage in theater, sometimes those photos can be really, really weird colors. Am I right? A lot of those photos turn out really orange or yellow, and that's simply because the white balance on your camera or the temperature reading on your camera is reacting to those horrible overhead lights. So what we're gonna do in the next segments of the video is we're gonna talk about how to combat poor white balance. The second thing that I see is that sometimes people say, you know, I have this really great picture, but my kid's blurry. What do I do about that? Well, friends, that's an issue with your shutter speed. Here's the thing with sports photography. Your kids or whoever you're photographing, they're moving very quickly. And if your camera is moving slow in terms of its shutter speed, your photos are going to be blurry. So we simply need to amp up your shutter speed. Now, the third thing that I hear is some people will say, well, my kid is really, really small and they're blurry. Okay, so here's what you need to do. You need to do two things. Number one, you need to amp up that shutter speed, and then you need to make sure that you're using a lens that has a zoom feature on it. That means you can get closer to your kid on the football field. Now, if you bought a basic camera at a box store with the basic lens, you probably don't have that big of a zoom. You probably have a lens that has like a 24 to 55 range on it, and you're gonna need a lens that has a little bigger zoom. And we're gonna talk about that at the very end of the video. So if any of those things are the things that you struggle with in your photography, friends, you are in the right place. So let's do a little bit of problem solving, shall we? Okay, soccer moms, so we're gonna start with you, and I'm gonna show you some simple ways that you can take better sports photos while still keeping your camera in some of the safe automatic modes. Don't worry, I know you're a little bit nervous. I'm gonna make it really easy for you. Now, I do encourage you to stick around for the rest of the video so that you can see some of those more advanced features. You might not be ready for them now, but maybe we'll be in a couple weeks or a couple months. So stick around so that you can see those and be ready for them when you are. Okay, so let's talk about our white balance. That's the thing that makes our colors in the photos look really, really wonky. When you're taking photos inside with fluorescent lighting, those lights actually blink. They blink so fast that you can't see them, but they alternate different colors, which is why some of your photos look completely different from the photo that you took a moment before, okay? The other thing is those photos are really warm, or those lights are really warm. So they're really orange and yellow. And in a gym setting, guys, one of my kids plays basketball, and with the orange floor and the orange lights, the kids look like pumpkins. So I know how hard this can be. So what I want you to do is I want you to get into the white balance features in your camera. You can do this on a DSLR, which is the big girl camera, on a point and shoot, and even on some smartphones. So don't be intimidated by this. Here's what I want you to do. If you don't know where your manual is, simply get on Google and say, how do I change white balance on my, and then type in the camera that you're using. And you're gonna get all your options popping up right there on your screen. So when you look into your cameras, you're gonna find that most cameras have white balance presets. And it might be like sun, shade, cloudy, nighttime, tungsten light, overhead light. There's lots of different options. So what I want you to do is kind of look around and figure out like, okay, well, what kind of lighting situation am I in? And then start with the one that you think is the closest to what you've got. Now, you might take that first photo and go, ooh, that wasn't it. No big deal. That's why God made the delete button, you guys. Just delete that photo, change a different white balance setting, and try it out again until you get the one that's best for you. So go ahead and change some of those presets, and you're gonna find white balance that works for you. The next thing that we need to do is we need to look at your shutter speed, because if your kids are running quickly, then your shutter speed also needs to be moving quickly. Now, if you look into your settings or into your modes, if you've got a point and shoot camera, you're gonna see lots of like custom options. You have usually a ballerina on a stage, which means low light. You have a portrait, which is usually a lady looking this way with a big fancy hat, and that means only a little bit of your photo will be in focus, the rest will be blurry. And then a lot of times you also have the running dude. You know, this one, that's the one I want you to use. Because when you use that little running dude, you're telling your camera, hey, my subject is working or running quickly, and I want you to take a faster photo. And your camera goes, all right, cool, and it takes a faster photo for you. So if you do those things, that's gonna dramatically affect the quality of your photos. Now there's one more thing that I wanna throw at you. Sometimes your photos are blurry, not because your kid moving, but because of you, especially if you have a really big zoom lens on. If you are zoomed out really close on your kid on the soccer field and you're talking to your friend and you're moving like this, your photo is going to be blurry because you moved. So the bigger the zoom, the more stable I want to make you with your body. So put your elbows on your knees or lean back in your chair or take a breath. And then take your photo. Find a way to stabilize your body, that way you can stabilize your photos. Okay, so this next section is gonna focus on those of you who feel a little bit more comfortable with your cameras. Now, if you're kind of dabbling on the edge of feeling comfortable or maybe not so comfortable, just be a sponge today. I just want you to soak this in. Even if it doesn't all make sense right now, it will eventually. So I would rather you know that the option is there rather than shutting me down and saying, this is too hard. So your job is to be a sponge. All right, so let's solve those same two problems that we just solved for our soccer moms. So problem number one, white balance. If you are using a DSLR camera, you absolutely have those same custom white balance options that the point and shoots cameras do. You can also go in and dial in the exact Kelvin temperature that you would like. So if you look into your white balance settings, if you see the K, that is Kelvin, and you can adjust your exact white temperature or white balance temperature. You can also go in and use something like an Expo disc, and I do have another video about that here on my YouTube channel. But you can also use an Expo disc to read the exact temperature that's falling on your subject. Either way, if you get into those settings, you can very easily solve your white balance problems. Now, the second thing we're going to talk about is how to prevent our subjects from being blurry, right? Well, on the fancy cameras, you also have that little running dude usually. But I want you to go a step beyond. What I want you to do is I want you to increase your shutter speed using shutter priority on your camera. Now, if you look at the spinny dial on the top, you're going to look for the T with a lowercase v, or you're gonna look for the S. Different cameras have different settings. And both of those settings, when you spin them, they both mean shutter priority. And here's why I love shutter priority and even aperture priority. What we're gonna do is we are gonna set your shutter speed, and then your camera is gonna kind of stay in automatic, and it's gonna pick your aperture for you. So it's still like being an automatic, but you still get to make some decisions, which is what I love about it. So when you are shooting sports photography, you're gonna wanna use a shutter speed of at least 500. Faster is better than that. Now, when I say 500, that means 1/500th of a second. So it's like a fraction of time. But that's gonna be exactly what you need to freeze your subjects. Now, if you're photographing a toddler on a bike, they're not moving quickly, so you can probably get away with 400th of a second. But if you're photographing someone going off a diving board, you're gonna want 1,000th of a second. The faster your subject is moving, the faster you want your shutter speed. So what you'll do is you'll set it to shutter priority, and then you're gonna spin your dial until you see 500, 800, 1,000, something like that on your camera. And then all you're gonna do is take your picture, because your camera's gonna pick all the other options for you. It's beautiful. Now, same thing with you though. If you do that and your photos are still blurry, I want you to look and see, are you using a zoom lens? Because if you're using a zoom lens and you're moving, if you're moving back here, it's not really exaggerated at all. But if you are zoomed out way in on your kid on the basketball court and you're moving, guys, it's a big deal. So make sure that you are stabilizing your body to stabilize your subjects. Okay, so let's say you've done all of those things. You fixed your white balance problem, you're using the appropriate shutter speed, and your photos still are not where you want them to be. Guys, it might be time to invest in some better camera gear. If you are typically shooting in lower light situations, like inside of a gym, then you're probably going to want to get a better camera body. The better the camera body, the better it does in low light situations. Or on the flip side of that, you might want to increase in a better quality lens because you might get a better zoom on it, and that means you can get closer to your subject, or it might have a wider aperture. And the aperture is simply the hole inside your lens that lets the light come through. Most of the kit lenses that you buy at the store have an aperture like this big, and it doesn't let in a ton of light. Well, if you upgrade your lens, guys, you can get apertures like this, and letting in that much more light, oh my gosh, it makes a world of difference. And if you go to your local camera store, they'll be able to help you out. I also have videos here on this YouTube channel that'll show you how to make a camera purchase, so make sure that you check those out. All right, crew, so you've done it. You've learned how to take better sports photos. The most important thing that you can do right now is literally, when you're done with this video, grab your camera, grab your kids, grab your neighbor's kids, grab your dog, something, and go out and practice these, because the sooner you can start practicing the techniques, the better and the faster they're gonna sink into your head. And that's exactly what we want. We want you to practice before you actually have to do it for real when your kid's about to score a goal, right? So make sure that you're practicing these techniques. If you have found this video helpful, and I hope you did, make sure that you subscribe here to my YouTube channel and leave me a comment below and let me know exactly what you thought. Thank you so much for joining me. I will see you on our next video.